Hello, guys. I decided to come share my opinion on this trending issue about late Prophet TB Joshua. Yeah, just like every other person, when you watch the video, the BBC documentary, when I watched it for the first time, the first thing that comes to your mind is, yeah, it's true. This really happened because everyone on that documentary telling the story are people who actually worked with this man for years. So at the first glance of that video, if you're not a fast thinker, if you're not the type that takes that that digests things before concluding, you would just say, yes, it did happen. But for me, I had to go back when something came into my mind, and this was, do you know it is a man that knows a man that kills a man? So when I got that thought on my head, I had to go back to watch this video this time around to analyze it. Why these people said what they said and why now? Now, why did I say why now? It is obvious they took a very long time to shoot that documentary. And that documentary was scripted. It wasn't like they were actually called to say, okay, you used to work with Prophet TB Joshua. What do you have to say about him? No, that wasn't the case. They scripted it. They had to tell a story. They had to tell a story. So they sat down to write a story. And maybe the story was based on things that actually happened. Maybe the things they said, some of the things actually happened. But for the fact that they took their time for years to write it, they may have added one or two to make it a full-blooded script. Now, why do I say that? I'm a playwright. I did theater arts. I majored in directing. When I see a scripted play, I know. Now, even when you're writing a play, when you're scripting a story, even if it's a real life story, for the fact that the story, you writing the story, you weren't the one who experienced the story, you're just writing it based on what the owner of the story told you, you would add one or two. Because the more you're writing it, the more your head will be open. You start to add friction. You start to add things that are not part of the story. So for me, I believe maybe one or two things actually happened, but they had to add to make it a full script for us to believe. Then again, why now? Does it mean these people who worked in synagogue for this long and experienced all of this, after they left synagogue, they never discussed with anyone about all of this? They kept it to themselves until BBC approached them. Where are their family members? Where are their friends? Where are the people they spoke to about this? Did they tell anyone this was what they experienced? Why is no one coming to Concord to say, yes, when she left or when he left synagogue, they actually said this and this really did happen? Why BBC? So it's obvious it was a scripted play. It was a scripted story just to spoil the man's image. Then another thing is, when you experience a torment, a bitter torment, each time you're telling that story, each time you're telling the story of what you went through, you'll be emotional. Except what they did to you never got to you. Because if actually you were tormented for that long, emotionally abused, physically abused, sexually abused, and you weren't okay with it, because some of them, see, if truly they were actually sleeping with TB Joshua, if truly they did, they were enjoying it. Because you can, they were enjoying it. But for me, I think it did not even happen. Because if you actually went through a situation like that, each time you tell the story, we will see the pains and the emotions in you. We are humans now. Now, one of the ladies, I think she's not a Nigerian, one of the bulky ladies, if you watch one of the documentary where she was crying, the God they introduced to me was a devil. She was talking about TB Joshua. And I'm like, wow, this woman, they really have misled this woman. This woman must have really gone through this pains for all these years. And later I saw another video of this same woman talking. She was just everywhere. This time around, there were no tears, there was no emotions, there were no pains. She was just talking. Then I realized, no, this thing is a lie. Because she actually missed continuity. She forgot continuity. That the same emotions, that the same pain you shared while telling the story on BBC would have been the same thing you bring out each time you go for an interview or each time you tell that story. I was expecting that same energy, that same emotions, that same pain she was using to tell the story on BBC. But every other interview, she was just like a normal girl, where she talked about, I don't know, I slept this, I did abortion, I did this, I did that, how she was sleeping with every other disciples in the synagogue. And how do we believe this story? How? Then another thing is, when BBC brought out the documentary, the wise men who were with TB Joshua had to say something. And this time around, I believe what they said because they were actually in line and they had no time to plan because they just came out to defend the prophet. And this time around, they didn't, the things they said wasn't things based on a planned story or a scripted story that, okay, we are going to defend, we have to. No, they said things that they experienced and actually happened, and they asked the right questions. If you were being molested or you were tortured for this long, how come you never said anything? How come you never ran away? How come until this man, some of them even left synagogue before he died? How come you never told anyone around you? Because stories like this, if I have a person who used to work there and comes out to say, this is what I experienced, me too now, my mouth, I will carry it and go and tell another person will tell another. Before you know, this is modern age. Social media is there. Before you know, things will start flying on the social media. But we never heard anything. We never heard anything apart from that Bisola, who to me is a devil. She is the devil herself. Because we saw videos upon videos where she was making confessions and asking for forgiveness. And today, you have come to say another thing again. Do you get? Listen, like I said, it is a man that knows a man that kills a man. So definitely, if TB Joshua will be betrayed, it has to come from people who are close to him. If they have to tell a false story about him, it has to come from people who were with him. So people like us outside can believe. But for me, I don't believe. Listen, you can believe whatever you choose to believe. You must not believe what I believe, and I must not believe what you believe. But for my own belief, it's false. It's a lie.